People made a shop with the car tires, and the assignment was quite extreme. And the artist took full advantage of the crazy demand that we had.
Yeah, here is my desk, which is now covered, but normally I sit at this desk with my laptop, and it's on wheels, so I can move it the way I want. This is storage for my, because all the CD boxes are empty, and they're all in little envelopes, alphabetically, see? So they all have these little black boxes, and they go in. And there are 2 layers. As the motor, they used something that a motor that came from a window sweeper from a truck. And it turns 2 ways. So this contrast between the rough character of the building and the well-designed interior is really what we like and what also fits us very well.
For the first time, 2012, we had to solve real hardcore architectural problems like acoustics and ventilation and exit doors. So it was really a school for them to shift into a real architecture, which is very difficult because an everyday architect uses a material and it's all certified, etc. They reuse material, there's no certification whatsoever, so what to do? So I have to talk and talk and talk because of that.
Look, this is how they function still. You can open them. And double glass, eh? So yeah. This is double glass, insulating.
Yeah.
So
wonderful.
Wonderful.
Sure. We can make a whole building out of these.
Absolutely. I mean, there's 15 of them already.
Yeah.
Of course, we have to find a way how to integrate it in the house, but I think that's really no problem.
Nee.
Let's put it in the lorry.
Success on the Worm project convinced 2012 that harvesting and reusing local materials was a viable strategy. And Ingrid Blands was willing to be their test case for a much larger, much more personal building, her home.
I was working for some years in an architectural office doing real buildings. And since 2012, let's say 3 years ago, had a commission to do the first real building, which was a villa. It seemed right for me to join them because I have this experience that they were lacking. And what's so exciting about the way we do it here is that it's all about imagination, much more than just solving problems. But also we have some kind of method developed to make it more practical and more real, and that is the harvest method.
The villa in Enschede was actually the first project on this scale, which is a full-grown building of 300 square meters. It's quite huge. What we did there was to make a kind of harvest map of the surroundings and collected all kinds of ingredients for the villa. Then we started designing it together with the clients and integrated the materials that we found within the design.
They are real good architects. But the funny thing is, they forgot the kitchen. And the kitchen, all those times, it was a problem. I should say, at the very first moment, cross through this design, and you designed it completely new with a kitchen. But I didn't. So the kitchen was always a minor problem.
The first thing that we wanted to use were train track beams, but then the nature of the material makes it not so applicable for building because it has chemical components that are not healthy. So we disposed of that material and found other materials in the neighborhood. One interesting material that we found for construction was a machine which is used in textile industry. And we bought one big machine and used that as a construction for the villa. So about 90% of the primary construction of the villa is built out of the textile machine.
I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but the sizes of the beams that came out from the machine fitted already very well in the shape that we had in the villa. So not with the wooden beams, but in this case with the steel construction. So continue with the process.
That's for construction. Then we had a big cable factory in the neighborhood, which has a lot of cable reels, and after 5 or 6 years these cable reels are wasted because the wheels are not good enough, and we used the small boards which are in the center of it to use it for cladding.
It takes like a few minutes to take apart the whole cable reel, and then you have all these pieces of wood that are untouched. So that's a good material because you have a lot of it. They are standardized in size, and you don't have to do complicated things to make them usable for architecture.
Yeah, on the wall is a first test of the cladding. The pieces of wood that we used, we just put against the facade in 2 layers. And the length that they have is the length, as they come on the facade as well. So there will be a kind of watershed behind it or below it, and then you get a second row of it.
Working with old materials, you have suddenly the possibility that you can use as much as you want because there is so much of it. And that gives us as a designer suddenly the opportunity to use maybe twice as much wood as one would using new wood. And so we had suddenly some kind of extra freedom, in fact wasting the waste. Yeah, that's what happens, yeah.
To be honest, when we make the plans for this house, we had so many friends who, for instance, get a broken hip. And I thought I shouldn't plan my house without an elevator and not come in only with a wheelchair and not use the complete house, you know. And that's why we have this.
And here's the elevator, which is actually constructing the whole steel skeleton which is put up. But then we had the idea to actually use the building lift for the elevator in the house. And what is nice about this villa is that it's one of the first architecturally designed houses made out of, well, I think now about 60–70% wasted materials.
I know, of course, this is only a drop on a hot plate, what we reduced here. But if it is possible that it is the beginning point of a new way of thinking, I'm happy. I'm happy that I'm the first and everybody can have a look.
With the villa complete, 2012 knew they could build a home. They decided to take what they learned and focus on the problem of aging public housing. Cramped, inefficient, and cheaply built, many of Rotterdam's post-war buildings were nearing the end of their lifespan.
I think what we've been showing is that we've been growing from small art projects. Now we're building a house. And at this moment we're developing a plan for reuse of flat buildings in Holland. They're going to tear down about 12,000 houses in the coming 3–4 years. And we have a strategy to prevent that.
We were asked by the Ministry of Spatial Affairs to make some kind of proposal for this block, and they are very happy with it. And we will try to convince all kinds of parties to do it this way.
What you see here is the typical public housing that we built in the Netherlands after the Second World War. There have been thousands and thousands of houses exactly like these been built in the 50s and 60s. Basically, they're technically not good anymore because they are too small, they're not insulated good enough. But also socially, they don't function anymore. The north sides of the houses will be insulated extremely good, and the south side will be covered in a climate facade made from the same kind of window frames that you can see in the houses now. Quite often we get this question, is it cheaper to reuse in architecture or is it more expensive? In the flat project, it starts to become big enough, I think. The one thing is that you don't have to build the whole structure new. That's the biggest saving point, because these structures are technically still in good shape, and we also calculated it. It comes to about 30,000 euro for each apartment that you spare out by not rebuilding the concrete structure again. Then another point where you spare money is a constructor has to pay for each kilogram of waste that he throws away. And that comes to 2,000 euro for each apartment that you spare out by not throwing away all the stone. You can also calculate how much CO2 emission you spare out, and that gives you extra funding also of about 2,000 euro for each apartment that you're building. So generally speaking, this way in the future will for sure be cheaper and sparing the environment at the same time.
The highest goal is to create materials, products, and architecture designed for indefinite use, rather than single or even multiple generations. Reuse is a step in that direction, and for 2012, every successful project has led to more ambitious goals.
The vision that we have is to create cities or urban districts which actually regenerate themselves. So the materials which are used in them are applied in such a way that they can be reused afterwards again. So we actually foresee districts that are made out of the derelicts of other buildings and parts which come from close by. And we think that this kind of close by reuse of materials can be a next step in it.
Yeah, I'm looking for inspiration in anything, in the material, in the way the sun goes, if there's any trees on the side. I think it just puts more layers into the design. And if you open yourself up to that, you will find out that it's not a handicap, it's something that you can use to put more quality in your design, I think.
What does it mean to be environmentally conscious?